Hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk about the film Dead Man Walk, which is an American film produced in 1943. It's not a famous film. It was produced by a small studio. The cast isn't very known either, but it's an interesting film. It's very short. It's just a little bit over 1 hour long. And it is about a kind, nice doctor from a small city, Dr. Clayton, who had a very evil twin brother who was called Alvin. Alvin was involved with practices that God don't approve of, if you know what I mean, occult practices. And he used it against other people. Someday, Dr. Clayton and Alvin, they had a fight, and Dr. Clayton ended up killing his twin brother in self-defense. And of course, as Dr. Clayton was a very good person, was a very gentle person, no one imagined that he had killed Alvin. Everyone in the small city thought that Alvin had died from natural causes, except for Alvin's servant, who thought that Dr. Clayton had killed him, threatened him, but Dr. Clayton pretended he didn't understand the threats, and it's okay. Dr. Clayton, he had a very beautiful niece. She was a young woman, and she had a boyfriend who was a very honest and good guy, who was in love with her. Dr. Clayton gave his permission for his niece to marry her boyfriend. They were very happy together. However, one day, when Dr. Clayton was studying his books, it appeared in front of him the spirit of deceased Alvin, who threatened him and told Dr. Clayton that his niece would slowly die a very painful death, and after that, Dr. Clayton himself would have a terrible death too. And right away, Dr. Clayton's niece started to be seriously sick. And there wasn't a clear explanation why the woman got sick all of a sudden. And then people started to feel suspicious about Dr. Clayton, especially the fiancé of his niece. And the fiancé of his niece, he was very much in distress because his love was very sick and he couldn't help her. And he confronted Dr. Clayton, accused him of trying to kill his niece, and if his niece died, he would kill him too. And other people overheard this because the fiancé of Dr. Clayton's niece, he talked to the sheriff of the city, that he was feeling suspicious of Dr. Clayton, if the police would do something about it, but the sheriff said that he couldn't do anything because he had no proof. And you know, small cities, the humor suddenly spread. And the entire population of the city started to be suspicious that every murder that occurred in the city, it was because Dr. Clayton was the murderer. And the population of the city started to want to do justice with their own hands. I mean, they wanted to lynch Dr. Clayton, thinking that he was a fraud, that he pretended to be a good doctor during the day, and during the night he killed people. Meanwhile, Dr. Clayton was desperately trying to save the life of his niece, but he had access to two crucial things about Alvin. First of all, Alvin was a very powerful and evil spirit at night, but at daytime, he was totally helpless and unprotected. And he spent the daytime sleeping in his coffin. Elvin was a kind of vampire, zombie. He was a supernatural evil creature. And the second thing is that Elvin could be destroyed by fire. In order to stop with everything that Elvin was doing, it was necessary to burn his body until it became ashes. And then Elvin was plotting all the time to kill the niece of Dr. Clayton. And Dr. Clayton started to look for Elvin's body so he could set it on fire. And meanwhile, a woman of the city, an elderly woman, she gave a cross necklace to his niece, which temporarily protected her from evil. And after lots of effort, Dr. Clayton ended up finding his brother. The body was in Elvin's own house, abandoned house. He found Elvin there, and there was a confront between them both. And Elvin's servant was also there. But Dr. Clayton got to push a very heavy desk towards the servant of Elvin, and he was trapped, and he couldn't help Elvin in anything. And then it was only Elvin and Dr. Clayton together fighting. And there was lots of physical fighting. While they were fighting, the population of the city went to Dr. Clayton's house to lynch him. He wasn't there. The fiancé of his niece explained that Dr. Clayton was no murderer, that he was mistaken to accuse him. And during the fight, the lynchers came to the house, and they were around the window witnessing everything. And they saw Elvin. And then what happened? During the fight between Dr. Clayton and Elvin, there was a kind of fire to make the environment lighter. Then the fire fell on the floor, and the curtains were set on fire, and it started a fire in the entire house. Dr. Clayton tried to push Elvin to the fire, but he knew that he would be in the fire too. But he said that he would destroy Elvin even if it costed his own life. And this is exactly what happened. He got to push Elvin to the fire, but Dr. Clayton ended up being caught in the fire too. The three of them passed away. Elvin, who was destroyed and was no longer a menace to anyone. Dr. Clayton, who sacrificed himself, he had to be punished. After all, he killed his brother. It wasn't self-defense, all right, but he did something wrong. And then the servant of Elvin passed away too. And this is how the story ends. It is a very short film. It is an interesting film. Even though it is low budget, the story is good, the acting is good, and time passes really fast while you're watching it. That's all for now, folks. I hope you enjoyed the video. See you.